And Christopher, I'm gonna record the meeting for you because I'll probably be going over some stuff that you're gonna want to keep these notes, so I can send you the video of the recording afterwards. Okay.
That would be awesome.
I've also got Rob Reichhardt here, the coordinator for the program, and I've got Paul Wollenzien, because I know you sent a very similar email to him.
Yes.
Asking about the final grades. So I figured kill two birds with one stone.
Hi, Chris.
Did you get the links that I sent for the sync sketch on the invitation?
Yes, I did.
I'll add it just so we've got it part of the record. I'll add it to the chat record as well. So let's take a second. So when we get to the sync sketch, if we click on that, everybody should be able to see it without actually having to screen share, so that as we scrub back and forth and look at it and discuss, we can all be seeing the same thing at the same time. Here you go. So here, for anybody who missed it, that's the link to the sync sketch. So can you have a look at that, Christopher, and just confirm, is that is that the final hand, and is that what you handed off to us?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So you felt that the grade, it was 3 out of 10. You felt that the grade wasn't a fair grade. Can you give some more clarification as to why you think that?
Yes. Let me double check my email just to make sure that I'm saying everything that I did say.
Yeah, I CC'd the I copied the email text into the invitation as well. Do you want me to paste it into the chat?
It's fine. I've got it up on my other monitor here. My camera seems to have died on me though. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to get back into my train of thought of when I wrote that, because it was a decent bit ago. And
yeah, I understand.
I think it's more just figuring out where I fell short.
Okay. Did you look at the rubric where each of the elements is broken down in criteria as far as the grades there on the assignment?
I know I did at the time. I'm gonna just bring it up now so I have it for reference. Okay,
so here, let me I'll include that in the chat as well. So it was a grade of 3.5 out of 10. Staging met expectation, posing was below expectation, timing and mass needed improvement, polish was below expectation, and obviously feedback applied. So which of those criteria do you feel that you did better than the grade represents?
Personally, sorry. I thought for what the shot actually contains, the posing, there's not a whole lot more I could do with that. Where would I be able to improve in that?
So because you're saying because the shot that you selected, nothing is happening, you can't really do much with animation?
In all honestly, there's not a whole lot in the entire animatic that I had to choose from of my own design, so it's past me really screwing over present me.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot that fit the other criterias.
So you came up with a concept, but within the concept, none of the shots really had much opportunity to animate or do anything. So I guess my next question would be, the last time I'd seen you in class was in week 8, and you disappeared after that. I didn't see you log attendance. You didn't show any work. What happened? What was going on?
Week 8 was leg ball turn, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was just after that, and then I didn't see you after.
After that, it was mostly I really needed to focus on getting this done, and I didn't have any animation to show for the classes besides like what the checkpoint was.
And so the checkpoint came in week 10, I believe. I've also
Okay.
got that there as well in the sync
Yes,
sketch.
in the sync sketch.
Dave, can I just chime in
Yeah,
for a
please
sec?
do.
Christopher,
Yes.
are you saying that you did not attend class after week 8?
No, I did not.
Okay. That is an issue from an administrative point of view.
Mhm.
Technically, you miss more than 3 classes and you can be at risk of failing a class.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Just so you know. I'm not sure what, now that rarely happens because we always try and work with students,
Mhm.
especially if there was a reason like being ill or a family issue. In this case, it doesn't sound like it.
No.
I'm a little bit concerned from the point of view of a coordinator that you chose not to attend after week 8, which is a substantial amount of time.
Mhm.
All right, back to
Yes.
Dave.
Was there a reason for that beyond just having work to do? Was there anything going on personally that would account for that?
I mean, stress from work, but like it's nothing that's notable beyond doing the work.
Okay.
Or, but
Um,
Christopher,
Yes.
you're paying for this course. What
Correct.
is your rationale to not go to a class?
Well, and I don't mean this as because I can see this coming off as a negative to how David teaches, and I do appreciate how he does.
bracing myself here.
It's just that most of the class time is spent in from when you joined the kind of FIA, the whole final assignment thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the classes ended up being feedback and
Sure.
going over things with sync sketch, and
Yeah.
where I had nothing to present, so I
So
might as
so
well
you
push
did
myself
you did
forward.
watch did you watch the class recordings?
Yes, I have
Okay.
all the recordings downloaded.
Okay, so you see probably there'd be interspersed with demos of things that I'm seeing in the assignments that I would open up, show how to fix, explain what it is I'm doing, the rationale, the criteria I'm looking for. So why wouldn't you make some progress and show it to get that same kind of feedback?
At the time, I was mostly focusing, and this is not like me trying to put blame elsewhere. I missed those classes. That's all on me. I was mostly focusing on getting my rig to a point where I'm happy, and that didn't exactly get where I wanted to be because I'm still working on my rig.
Okay. So I mean, when you got the 3 out of 10 on the checkpoint, I would have expected that would prompt you to reach out, communicate with me, for folks watching along, if you look at the sync sketch from the checkpoint to the final hand in, the two don't seem materially different aside from a different camera position.
No, yes, the animation in that is the same.
So I gave you 3 out of 10 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Did it not occur to you that would be a problem by time if you just handed the same thing in for final?
It did occur.
Okay.
I'm trying to go back to the mindset of the time and
Sure.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
No, that's okay. Take your time.
Chris, I think what Dave is getting at is that if you had an indication that you had a significant amount of correction and work to do on the work that you handed in, right?
Yes.
And then essentially not get feedback and then essentially hand in the same thing at the end and expect a different outcome.
Yeah.
Please explain that rationale.
I cannot, because now having it explained to me and having it put all out in front of me, I see the larger piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
At the time,
On May 3rd.
I got a little tunnel visioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over the course of 3 days, you've had some time to reflect, and now that you see it sort of represented
Yeah.
back to you, you're starting to understand where we're coming from.
I am, yes.
Okay. So my concern is you ended up, I think, with a 52% or something like that, which, funny enough, tracks pretty closely to the percentage of classes that you attended.
Did he cut out for anyone else?
He did, yeah.
Oh, am I gone? Can you hear me? Check 1, check 2.
Hold on, we'll just give him a sec.
Ah, rats.
Dave.
Yep, I'm still here.
Yeah, you cut out for a good chunk there.
Oh, okay. So funny enough, the number of classes you attended tracks pretty closely with the results that you got from the class. I think you ended up with a 52% or something, because you were doing fairly well at the beginning. You had an 80, then a 60, then a 60, then a 30, then a 35 on your final. And so that arc was dropping off with your attendance. It's difficult to help you if you don't show up, don't ask questions, don't show the work in progress. At any point, if you had shown up in week 9 and shown me your layout, I could have told you, if you don't come up with an idea that it gives you an opportunity to animate, there's nothing I can do. I need to see animation. Yeah. Although I would argue, even a simple shot like this, where it's a take, a reaction. Okay, well, you've got a simple A to B pose with very little range between them. You could have an anticipation, an overshoot, a recovery, there's a lot more mechanically that should go in there. So even that, we still could have made some good animation if you had just shown up and showed the work. And I was hopeful that when you did poorly in week 10, I would at least see you for the next 4 weeks. And you still didn't show up. Did you see the grade when it posted on the checkpoint? You said you were concerned, but at what point was that?
It was the point where I was like, okay, things need to change, but there are other things that need to be done for this shot to be done and actually handed in and whatnot.
Sure. So were you attending your other classes?
I was, yes.
Okay, so it's just the animation class that you didn't show up for.
It was, sorry, I have my thing on my wall behind me.
Sure.
Yeah.
How was your attendance in Paul's class?
Which one specifically? They were.
There was a modeling class
and yes, 3D software and animation.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that at all.
Okay. So Paul, I guess I feel like your questions, your concerns about animation are pretty well addressed without me going any further into it. Is that a fair characterization, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, do you have any? Do you want to speak to the rigging modeling stuff?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I just, Chris, you asked me why you felt you got the grade, so I can just explain it to you. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, let me make sure screen sharing is on there, Paul.
Thanks,
hang on
Dave.
a sec. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Cancel that.
So the first thing I want to address is your point about the rubric. Not having that rubric up in time is a fair point. However, it is like I went over my expectations quite a few times in class. Those are also recorded to the cloud. And when I was grading, frankly, I felt like I was being lenient because of that. So, keep that in mind, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Screen sharing's turned on there, Paul.
Okay, thanks.
And I'd also like to say I am rebuilding the rig because I wasn't happy with the level of detail I could get out of the facial shapes.
Okay, well, I think too, there's also even some modeling you should do, and I'll go over that in a minute. But yeah. So first off, the biggest issue, and I overlooked it. Like it was an issue, but I know enough about rigging that I was able to dig through other ways to find out if you'd done it properly. So the first issue was your model clean reference file wasn't included. Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah, I can, yes.
So the model clean reference file wasn't included, which is something that I did say to people, make sure when you send your Maya files that you're submitting both, otherwise it won't open, right? So that was the first big issue,
Yes.
which did, sorry, man, my kids, sorry, 1 second. So that was the first issue. That did factor into the grade on the 4th rubric about the Maya file, but I didn't give you 0, right?
Correct.
So like, I guess keep that in mind. Technically it's a 0. I didn't do that. So anyways, we'll ignore the reference. And this is not to be condescending. It's just so that you understand the concept too. So the reason we retop the model, right? Do you remember what the main reason for doing that is? Like why you can't just put a dense mesh into your model?
Performance reasons in Maya. I learned that one.
Yeah, totally. Which on your model, your character model, when and I'll get to that in a minute, I was able to open up your later submission and use that to check out your topology. So that was not bad. There are things to improve, like adding eyelids would be a big one.
Yeah.
Adding enough loops that you actually have eyelids. But also like the teeth that you had in there were such dense polygons that when you highlight them, it looks like a solid material. Like, you see this?
Yeah, I noticed that when I was rebuilding my rig, because I was wondering the whole time when I was animating in Maya, why is everything so slow?
Exactly.
And then when I went back and I saw that they were highest.
So that factored into your topology issues as well. Okay. And then again, even though the skin mesh wasn't there, what I did do is I went through your rig and made sure that all of the stuff was performing properly. Okay. So even though there were enough grades that I would argue to take your grade lower, I was nice and I didn't do that.
I do see that, yes.
Okay. And then as for the topology, I ended up going to your later submission to look at that, which I have here. Okay, and so again, your facial topology is actually not that bad. Like your general loops are going in the right place, but again, like lack of eyelids, that's one that I discuss, making sure that if you don't have enough loops, that's going to happen, where it's just going to interpenetrate the eyeball. So having more loops around that eye is like a necessity, okay, for that to work. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay. And then also like averaging out topology, like not having dense lines between larger lines was a big component of topology as well. And the reason for that is when you do subdivide this in ZBrush to create your smaller details and normals and stuff like that, this area here is going to subdivide at a much higher level than here. So you're going to be able to sculpt a ton of detail here and less detail here. Less detail here, right? And so, and then even less detail on the face. And so that becomes an issue because when you're subdividing your character, then you go to like, let's say 7 million polygons to detail the face, but this is that dense, you're going to have most of your polygons in those dense areas and not enough to be able to detail the face, for example. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely does make sense.
Okay. And then also minor things like orientations that I noticed, but again, didn't really deduct marks for. Okay. So again, there's more stuff in here that I could have nailed you on, but didn't. So I feel like overall in my class right now, I think you're passing with like a 75. I think that's like more than fair.
I do agree with that. And I spent most of the year because I remember in VGD I failed the first semester of production tech because I didn't pay enough attention to the class. So I was a little more attentive to, I'd say, a detriment to my other classes of how much time I was putting into focusing on the creature and trying to keep up the grades to where, like, I don't mean to say this and have it sound like I don't like you, but like you were the voice in my head telling me, do better, keep going. There's more you can be doing.
Okay. Well, I would argue that I don't take that as an insult at all. I
I just
think
like to cover my
that's,
bases.
yeah, no, quite the opposite. I think that's good advice. Yeah, so I mean, again, I think like as far as the grade goes, I think it's more than fair. I hope that that makes it like that clarifies why.
Yes.
And then the other thing too is, remember, I am working with students over the summer. You're more
Correct.
than welcome to be involved in that, right? Like, please don't feel like, you know, it's that's the grade, and like obviously we're not going to change grades, but if I can help you get more prepared for next year, like take advantage of that time if you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just a question about the summer classes thing. Those are being recorded as well?
Yeah, they're not formal classes. It's just me
Yeah.
helping people out. But yeah, I've set up Zoom, and those will be recorded. But again,
Okay.
man, I would say learn a lesson here. And Dave kind of hinted on it, and that is even if it's feedback for others, there's a ton you can learn from that, even though it's not directly like your feedback, right? So
Yes.
keep that in mind. I would say don't continue down the same path you have been. Look to mix up the way you're doing things. And I would say
Yes.
my biggest suggestion is start with attendance and making sure that you're there to ask questions and engage, because ultimately those are the students that succeed the most, the ones with the top engagement. So yeah, that's my piece, really.
Yep.
Thank you guys for the explanations and everything.
So the other thing I think, sort of counter to Paul's point, what you're doing right now is not a good strategy for success. Not showing up and then asking why you got the grade you got, that's not going to work. And quite frankly, to be fair, it wastes everybody's time. I did a group meeting so that I could expedite this process, but if you had shown up in class, if you had asked questions, if you'd paid attention, you would already know the answer to these questions. But instead, you wait until May 3rd to ask about a grade that you should have been asking about in week, 10. And you draw us all together here. We've got a lot of other stuff to be doing too. This is not a good strategy. And I'm not sure why you thought it might be, but don't do this again. If you have questions about grades, ask when they show up. If you have questions about the work, why you're doing poorly, ask during class, show up then, okay?
Okay. That is definitely something I plan to work on.
Okay, thank you. Rob, anything to add there?
No, well, you know what, you guys covered it well. Chris, did you graduate from VGD?
No, I did not. I felt that what I was looking for in the program was not where the last year was headed.
Okay, you know what, that's fair. You know what, that was probably a wise decision based on your interest. That's good. But if anything VGD taught you, or you should have learned, is that there's no success without going to class. That's 100%. You know what, and remember, you're paying for this, so you know what, as opposed to trying to do things alone at home, you should be like, these are talented instructors. You should be like eking out every bit of information that you can. And so, you know what, my advice to you is walk away from this meeting, understand that you got to go to class, even if it's a period where instructors are commenting on students' work, because like Paul said, you know what, there's a lot of stuff to learn. Right? There's more than we have time to share with students. So your goal is to show up and learn, and like, you've got one more year in this program, right? And you've got to be graduating with a big portfolio next year. So take all of this advice to heart and implement it now moving forward for September. Okay.
Be aware also, Chris, in the animation class, we're using breakout rooms quite a bit. And so you're getting peer feedback as well. None of that is recorded. You can't capture that stuff later. And it's going to be the same as we move forward into semester 3 and 4. So that's stuff that you simply can't get any other way except in real time in the class. That's it. Do you have any questions for us, Christopher?
No, I feel like I've asked all the questions that I had planned in my head.
Okay,
And
excellent.
you know what, Chris, next, you didn't have the benefit of having me teach you in level 6 in VGD where it's all about the industry and where I bring in industry guests and things like that, who talk to you about their experiences getting into the industry. But what I will tell you is that, you know, when Dave was saying, you know, really, you waited too long and then you brought everybody together here to discuss something, which is really pretty marginal as far as your work. These people are the people who are recommending you for jobs, assuming you want to work in this industry, right? You're setting your profile this year and next year as far as, you know, the way that people perceive you, both internally as far as the first line of defense, which is your professors for recommendations for jobs. So keep that in mind, okay? This is now like professional stuff you need to be thinking about. Okay?
Okay, I will definitely keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, gents. I will save out the recording and send a link to its location once it's transformed. Paul, Rob, if you guys want to hang around after this, we can discuss further some of the other things we were talking about.
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much,
Awesome.
Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good day.
You too.